How you doing, boys and girls? The Pong Father here. And I want to talk about the game Freedom Fighters for the Odyssey 2. Okay, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've been working on my high score. And recently, on a Facebook group, Patrick DeRosa has made a post on this, on how hard it is and how challenging it is. So, and I agree, it's very challenging. So now the game itself has three modes that you can play. One of the modes is actually a two-player game in which two people play against the computer as one. So, in other words, both controllers are used, and they're impossible to use one player. Even if you custom make something and have both controllers sit in something, you still can't control the two sticks and the fire button. So, so I'm here to talk about the one-player modes. The two-player modes. There's when you play the game Freedom Fighters on the Odyssey 2, you can press the 0 button, the 1 button, or the 2 button, or the enter button. The 0 button, I believe, it makes you play the game single screen. Single screen, but no firing. Every second you stay alive, you get a point. And when you can't shoot, so you just have to stay alive. You have to you can't get hit by anything. And you have to pick up Freedom Fighters for 20 points or just stay alive. There's no firing. So you simply stay alive. And this game, Freedom Fighters, when you reach 100 points, the game doubles in speed. Then when you hit 200 points, I don't know if it doubles its speed when you reach 100, but it gets faster. Then when you get like 200 points, it gets even faster. 300 points, it gets even faster. So every time you make 100 points, the game gets the enemies get faster, and the whole game becomes like faster and harder. So the attack mode. You are now on the flight deck of your Earth Federation starship. Your craft is displayed at okay. Then there's the so that's the attack mode, and then there's where you can play a single screen where you don't get points for every second you stay alive, but you can fire and you get 5 points for hitting the neutron stars or whatever they're called, the yellow stars, and you get a point for shooting the little white stars that come from the yellow stars. So in other words, the yellow stars release little smaller white stars that attack you. They eventually disappear, but they float around and eventually they disappear. You just have to avoid them before they disappear. Then there's the mode I told you with the two players. So the one player modes is what we're going to be concentrating on here. This does not include the two player mode because if you grew up with the Odyssey 2 like I did, and there's not many people out there that are still active and this was their system, because most people back then had Intellivision or Atari mostly. So the Odyssey people, that had this game, a lot of them, from what I hear from Facebook groups and YouTube and forums, I've found out the same thing that I experienced, where if you had this game growing up, you didn't realize for a while, you may have not have realized, even though the manual does say 1 or 2 player game, you wouldn't have realized it. I did realize it later after I had it for a while, that both controllers, the one controller controls the single screen and the other controller hyperspaces to the next screen. So that's why I'm saying if you played 2 players, one would hyperspace through the next screen and the other one would fire and change direction. So in the 1-player mode that we're concentrating on, there's 2 ways of playing it. The 2 ways that I said. The way where you can just, you won't have firing, but you stay on a single screen, and the freedom fighters that are boxed, they're in a box. Okay, the freedom fighters that float around, they're purple, and they look like this right there. Okay, so when those come floating around, you grab one of those, you save you free the freedom fighter, and you get 20 points, and the screen flashes purple like that when you catch it. Okay, so you get 20 points for that. That's the big points. When you play the mode where you fire and you hit these yellow bigger stars, you get 5 points for each one you shoot. And then these little white ones that these release in sprays, those are worth 1 point when you hit those. So in the other mode where you can't fire, you just float around here and avoid all these things. You avoid them all. You can't shoot them. But just by avoiding them, you get a point for every second you stay alive. So what I've come to figure out is that either mode you play in, the challenge is about the same. So now there's a chart back here that has ratings. Okay. So if you score 50 to 99, you're an ensign. If you score 100 to 149, you're a lieutenant. If you score 150 to 249, you're a commander. And when it starts getting tough is when you're a captain, 250 to 349. Break that and you're a commodore. And then you're an admiral if you can hit 750. Wow. And if you can break 1,000, you are a fleet admiral. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. This is when this video gets good. Sorry for all the boring intro. But 1,000, keep that in mind. My current high score, I don't remember my childhood high score. I wish I used to write them down, and I think, I pretty much remember breaking 300. I'm not sure if I ever broke 500. I may have, because I used to play the shit out of it before Saturday morning cartoons, and I just used to play the crap out of it in like 1981, 1982, 1983. I had it for at least 3 years until it shit the bed, and then I, recently got it in my adulthood. Not recently, but like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. But ever since, I've been collecting everything I had. Unfortunately, I have nothing to show for my childhood Odyssey 2. None of the games, nothing. Everything got thrown away by my parents, or just it broke. It didn't work anymore. I grew up, and that was it. But what I did is, since this has been in the news lately, as far as Odyssey 2 news goes, It's currently been now. Another thing I want to mention is that this game, this was the U.S. release manual. The game was released in Europe. The game was released in. It was more. What I want to say is the Odyssey 2 was more popular. It was known as the video pack in Europe, uh, mostly Germany, but Italy, Germany, Europe, France. It was big in France, actually. France and Germany. I think France, it was the biggest in Europe. And then it was big in Brazil. Um, by then, it was Philips. It was Magnavox. It started off as in the U.S. In the U.S., it started off as Magnavox, the company. Then it converted to Philips, which was the same company, and then in Brazil, it was just called the Philips Odyssey. Here it was called the Magnavox Odyssey 2, and then the Philips Odyssey 2, and in Europe it was called the Video Pack. It was also available in Canada, but Canada would have gotten French manuals and U.S. manuals, and the labels were a little different, the variations. But we're going to talk about high scores today. My current high score is on the board here. I'll be right back. Okay, my high scores are 227 and 283 currently. And when I say that, I say 227 is with the firing, the single player, single screen firing mode, and the time mode where you don't fire, you just stay alive, is the 283. So I kind of find that to be the easier way of the two. Obviously, I've actually played the firing way more, and I've been able to get 283. I mean, whatever I said, 283. So 283. Either way that you break this score, you'll get credited for it. You can do it the hyperspace way. You could do it. So there's three ways of playing single player. I mean, though one of the modes is an actual two-player mode, like I said, you can play that mode one player. You just hyperspace through everything, and you don't stay on a single screen, so you can find the freedom fighters. They don't have to see when you play the one player, the single screen mode. The freedom fighters randomly come onto the screen. Where when you play the hyperspace, you go through, you travel through space and you can actually find the freedom fighters. So any of the three modes are difficult. Now, what we're going to talk about here is the all-time high scores that I've been able to find online. What I did is I did some research on YouTube. And I just typed in Magnavox Odyssey 2, Freedom Fighters. I typed in Video Pack, Freedom Fighters. I typed Philips Odyssey, Freedom. So I found pretty much all the videos I could find on YouTube where people played it, on screen gameplay. From an actual television, from actual hardware, where they filmed it like I did. I mean, I posted a video of playing it. I think my high score in my video that day was like 167 or something like that, 180 something. But by my high score, I got a screenshot of it. Now, back in the day, there was a magazine for the Odyssey 2 where people would send their high scores in. I didn't check those magazines to see what the high score was, but I am, and I'll mention it in the next video, in my next gameplay video. So these are the high scores I was able to research and find on YouTube. A lot of you might remember CGR, Classic Game Room. He used to do a lot of the old retro stuff. His on-screen gameplay high was 163. So if all you remember him, I forgot his first name. Somebody in the comments refresh me. But his high score was with video proof on YouTube of actual gameplay was 163. So he would be a commander. Okay, then Patrick DeRosa, the guy I mentioned earlier, who also has YouTube videos on gameplay, and he runs a Odyssey 2 group on Facebook. His high score on YouTube is 267, but I saw that he got 279 in another Odyssey group on Facebook that ran like some kind of competition last year. It was kind of like a league where where the Freedom Fighters was a game they played one week, and everyone took screenshots. And Patrick, I think, won it because that was the high score I saw, and it was a little higher than his score on YouTube, 279. So that was a screenshot. So Patrick, congratulations on that 279, which doesn't beat my 283. But I do have a screenshot of that. But yeah, me and Patrick just recently spoke in messages, and I told him this game's hard as shit, and he agreed. I mean, 279 as of right now is what I got for Patrick DeRosa's high score overall, and 267 on YouTube. So Patrick plays the hyperspace way mostly when I see him play, where he's going screen to screen firing, and then I was able to find Retro Gaming Loft 181. These are all on YouTube. Then there was an Oswaldo Haras 152, Mega Robbie Games 121, Barthox Dravtor. I don't know. I might be chopping these names, but 125. 316. What's up? 121. The Shadow Knows 188. TJ Ferreira. You guys might know him from the Amico. He runs the Facebook group. I don't know if he still does because I blocked it because I had a problem with him during the Amico stuff. And a lot of you might know TJ Ferreira. I enjoyed him for a long time, just like Atari Creep and DJC, and I parted ways with him as well because of all the shit that happened with the Amico, but that's for another day. But anyway, I'm mentioning him. He only had an 89. And then you got Lactobasic Prime 160. Herada 2D 128. Serious Atari 236. That got close to. Now here's where we get. Now with that said, and then there was one other one. It was from a high score website, but the video exists on YouTube. Doesn't have the player's name, but I think he's registered as Pixax Pete on that high score website. He got a 405 on video, so that's the highest score on YouTube. 405. So that would make him a Commodore. A Commodore. So that's the highest registered score with video proof on YouTube is 405. And then on that high score website, the different mode, because that's the hyperspace mode, or what the manual calls the attack mode. So he got the 405 in the attack mode. And that same website lists an Alex Becerra, I believe from Mexico, I believe, or Brazil, I mean, from Brazil, Alex Becerra 324. So 405 is your high. So, but it's not, because in twin galaxies, we all know twin galaxies, right? Okay, now in twin galaxy, from Google, I was able to find, because I also Googled freedom fighters to see if I could find whatever I could find for high scores. So, what I found from Twin Galaxies is video proof. There is a video on Twin Galaxies of a guy called Steve Rasmussen. Steve Rasmussen put up a 595 using the attack mode. Steve Rasmussen 595 with video proof. It's not on YouTube, this video, but it's on Twin Galaxies website. Then, for the overall highest score I was possibly able to find for the freedom fighters on the Odyssey 2, and there's no video evidence of this one. There's not even a screenshot evidence of this one. So this might be a Billy Mitchell type thing. But it was a well-known player from back then. He may have even been one of the guys. I'll let you know in the next video. The name Robert Mrzek, Mruzczek, Mazarak. So Robert Mazarak. I don't know if any of you, let me know in the comments if you know that name, because it rings a bell. He, I guess he holds quite a few high scores in arcade games and even home consoles like Atari 2600 and stuff like that. So he might be a well-known guy, and from what I read on Twin Galaxies, it said that a video on VHS was submitted way back in like 83 or something, or 80, yeah, like 1983 to what's his name? The guy who ran Twin Galaxies. It's not coming. Oh, Walter Day. So it says in the write-up, it says Walter Day received a video from Robert Muzak with the high score, and they say that it was in the 800s, but I don't know if something happened to the tape or one of those deals, right? Where they don't have the tape anymore. Something happened to the tape. And so they have it as 800 on that, but then it's been updated recently to 863. So whether the player himself remembered the actual score, I mean the real score. So they've updated it from 800 to 863. But again, we'll have to put an asterisk on that one, because though Walter Day confirms that he received a video from Robert way back in like 1983. So we don't have the evidence though. There's no screenshot online. There's no video online. So if you want to go, I mean, I believe it. I mean, because 863 would put you up at the Admiral rank. So now that brings us to this conclusion. Now, with all this said, 1,000 has never been done on freedom fighters, and that is the Fleet Admiral. If you can see that, freeze the screen. So in the manual, it says if you get 1,000 points, and there's no evidence anywhere that someone has ever gotten 1,000 points on freedom fighters. And remember, guys, it's a one life game. So it's a one life game. You only get one life. You don't get no free lives. You don't get nothing. No shooting power ups, nothing. So you can play with the firing, without the firing. You can play the attack mode. So this is all that's on record. There's not much record. There's nothing on record for the two-player mode. Because like I said, most people didn't even realize that this was a two-player game. So I mean, if you could get two people together that both know the game, I wonder if that's the way to break 1K. But as far as the single player mode, no one in the history of mankind that's known. There might be someone that did it, but they didn't submit it anywhere. So I'm sure maybe it was done back in the day for all we know. Maybe I did it. I don't even know. Maybe I don't remember. So maybe one of us did it when we were in our youth and we just can't recall it, or because we played other games we got confused with. I mean, I can't say I got it, but like I said, I'm lucky if I maybe got over 300 back then. I just don't have any proof of it in my mind. I don't remember my score in Freedom Fighters, but it was a game that I did have. And I did play a lot. But I also played UFO, Pickaxe Pete, and Cosmic Conflict, and a bunch of other games. But this is probably the hardest game on the Odyssey 2. I would say, in my opinion, it's the hardest game. So, with that being said, the hardest game on the Odyssey 2, these are the scores that I was able to research and find. These are all the scores I was able to research and find through YouTube and Google. And like I said, I didn't check that magazine, that it was like a club magazine. I have all the issues, and I can even look them up, the screenshots of the issues online. I just didn't do that, but I will, and I'll update that in the next video, in my next gameplay video of Freedom Fighters, because I'm going to try all three modes. I'm going to at least try to beat my own high score right now of 283. I'm going to try, which would put me in third place on YouTube. Oh, actually, Alex's video is not on YouTube with the 324, but I think there's a screenshot of that on the High Scores website. So Patrick, I know that I think he's currently trying to get his high score, which is, I believe, 279, Patrick. Correct me. I know you might see this. 267 on YouTube. Like I said, there's a 405. So that's the score that I'm going to go for when I next play it on my next video. 405 is the highest YouTube video score on Freedom Fighters. I'm going to go for that one and play all the modes. And then, of course, the Twin Galaxies 595, and that one is with video proof. So that would be my next goal. And then obviously the other one with the asterisk, 863. I have no reason not to believe that this Robert Mirzak did it. 863. But like I said, Walter Day confirmed that he got 800. At least he remembers it being in 800s. And later on, Robert must have remembered, and Walter Day went with it, and they updated it to 863. So there's a nice story for y'all. And there's that list again. Those are the scores I was able to find. I'm sure Patrick will like this. I'll have to let him know on the Facebook group. So there you have it. Freedom Fighters, Odyssey 2, 1K. Can you do it? Buy yourself an Odyssey 2. Buy yourself a Freedom Fighters, which usually comes in a bundle of an Odyssey. So you can get one at a pretty good cost. It's a fun system to play. Give it a chance, and you try and get 300 on this game. Try to get 300 on this game. Never mind 1K. Because 1K, there's nothing on the internet that proves anyone ever got 1K. But do I believe that someone got 1K? I believe someone got 1K back in the day. Maybe. Maybe there's just that one person or a couple people that did it back in the day, if they played it enough and mastered it and figured it out. Maybe even the 2-player way. Maybe somebody did it that way. I don't know. There's no proof out there. I'll check that magazine, the Odyssey magazine, to see if anything higher than this or something in whatever it is. I'll update it in the next video. And yeah, and the thing I was going to say before, if anyone knows, this Robert guy, I believe he might have been one of the guys in that famous arcade photo of Twin Galaxies in the Life magazine. He may be one of the guys. I'll have to check that, and I'll let you guys know in the next video on those two things, all right? So for now, I hope you enjoyed this. Have a good night, y'all.